Yeah. So chapter 12 is called Conclusions, Reflections, and an Agenda for the Psychology of Transformative Change. And it has sort of 5 principles of change, we say, that are advanced. One is that in general for system change, it's the changed relationships between elements that is key. If you just try and remove a problem individual or group, that doesn't necessarily lead to between system change. It's more what Fatali Moghadam calls within system change, where you overthrow one dictator and another one takes power and so on. Then we talk about the idea that understanding the ways in which the present system is already changing or has these latent forces, it's already heading towards a new reality of emergence or collapse, is really important towards choosing our action and how we're going to respond in the system. And then talking about how within, this perception of consensus and stability, there's always diversity. There's always opposition to the status quo. There's always latent contestation and latent, challenge to the status quo. And that ironically, a lot of the time we can see in retrospect that the actors within a society are disputing with each other about these differences at the margins while the whole society is hurtling towards a transformation like a war or an environmental disaster. And that's really important for us to understand. And this idea of the pendulum swings and that rapid social change can mask the erosion of the forces that are creating the change, and long-standing inertia can mask the erosion of the forces that are keeping the status quo in place. So these invisible latent forces, we just have to get better as a society and as psychologists at describing them and theorizing them. And then last, we kind of spent quite a bit of time riffing about how changing the group's behavior is not at all the same as changing individuals. And in some cases, you can actually change individuals and slow the pace of change in group norms. And this is a really important issue, I think, when we think about a topic like democratic backsliding, because an over focus on the individual in some cases can prevent the group norm from changing. I mean, I wonder what your thoughts are on that, Chiara and Cecilo. Are those the points that you took from the chapter, or is there anything you wanted to add, Cecilo?
In my imagination, so if I try to summarize the overall content of the book, so it's
Yeah.
like we're not just when we talk about intergroup relations, we're not just focused on the groups, but also
Yeah.
we try to define and articulate what the inter term means in this context. So we're not just focused on if we imagine the network, we not just focus on the groups or on the nodes, but we also focus on the edges. We also
Mm.
focus on the connections, and I
Yeah.
think
The
real
relationships.
transformation or real social change, it doesn't come from it doesn't come by removing the problem people, but sometimes it comes from shifting the relationship and the feedback loop that hold the system together. So I think that's the most important point with this book. And also we consider about the invisible forces, like systems can look stable or chaotic, but what matters is understanding why the system is stable and why it's chaotic. And there is hidden processes or hidden accelerations, hidden resistance within the system that drive change or might be resist to change or keep those systems stuck
Yeah.
in the current situation, thing like that.
Yeah.
So
Totally. I really agree with that. What about you, Kiara?
Just the idea of how, like, so often we see dissenting as exiting the group, and
Yeah.
the idea of staying within the group to dissent can be such an incredibly powerful thing to do. But it's also obviously a very challenging thing in many cases. I mean, we've seen
Mm.
plenty of examples, like the freedom riders, I think, would be
Yeah.
like obviously not change a group when it's race,
Yeah.
but there's definitely that pushback, and I think it's important to recognize the risk of pushback and how things might be received, but just also how powerful it can be to have in-group dissent is a big one in terms of actually being able to affect change. And I think that also brings to mind this chapter brings to mind for me, like the idea that sometimes, even though you can look at a situation and be like, I just want to burn it all down, it's potentially more beneficial to look at what's going on and be like, all right, these are the things that are actually okay. Like there's always going to be something in a system. And if we can work on reinforcing that, that might be a better approach than just being like completely black and white in thinking. And I think that, I mean, the whole book kind of just does that as well, is that nuanced thinking about how our actions and actions of people of differing groups or perspectives and that sort of thing really ties it together well, that interacts.
Yeah, that's really great way of putting it. It's like, I feel like everyone's intuition about how social change happens comes from the idea of like defeating problem groups and problem people. And I just think when you look at the evidence basis for the social change, that actually isn't what's going on at all. There's all these positive forces that are being nurtured and all these negative forces or harmful forces that are being undermined. That is social change. It's all that complexity. And the fact that humans get so excited about stories of individual and group, heroism and villainy is a barrier to social change because we can't address what's actually going on. And we can see that in every struggle. It's just great fun talking about the book with you guys. And yeah, I hope that the readers are interested too.